My name is Thomas Hale, and I'm 78 years old. I'm sitting alone in my kitchen this morning, listening to the refrigerator hum, and I finally understand something I spent most of my life running from. I learned it too late. Love needed my time more than my success. I'm not telling this because I want sympathy. I don't need reassurance. I'm telling it because the truth doesn't feel heavy anymore. It just feels clear. And clarity comes when there isn't much road left. Most mornings now look the same. I wake up early because my body doesn't let me sleep in anymore. The house is quiet in a way it never used to be. I make coffee even though I shouldn't. I sit at the table and look at the same spot on the wall where the paint is slightly darker from where the calendar used to hang. There's no calendar now. I don't really need one. I used to measure my life in deadlines, in meetings, in numbers that went up slowly and then faster. I thought that meant something permanent was being built. I thought I was laying down a foundation that would hold everything else. I was wrong about what needed holding. At this age, people ask different questions. Doctors talk slower. Cashiers call me sir with a softness that wasn't there before. Friends don't call as often, not because they don't care, but because there are fewer of them left to call. I don't think much about death itself. It's the space around it that gets my attention. The empty chairs, the missing voices, the conversations that never happened because I was always about to. I didn't grow up thinking I would make this mistake. I wasn't careless. I wasn't cruel. I was responsible. I was dependable. I did what I thought a man was supposed to do. That's part of what makes this so hard to explain. When I was younger, in my 20s, I believed time was something you spent wisely or foolishly. I thought I was spending it wisely. I had a job that mattered. At least it felt like it mattered. I worked in operations for a manufacturing company, long hours, constant pressure, always something behind schedule. I liked being needed. I liked being the one who stayed late. When problems came up, people looked for me. That felt good. It felt like purpose. I met my wife, Eleanor, when I was 27. She had a quiet laugh and a way of listening that made you feel like you'd said something important even when you hadn't. We didn't rush into anything. We talked, we walked, we sat in diners and shared pie. I remember telling her about my job on our third date. I remember how her eyes stayed on me even when I rambled. I mistook that for understanding. I didn't realize it was patience. When we got married, I promised her stability. I promised her a good life. I didn't promise presents. I didn't think I needed to say that out loud. At first, everything worked, or it seemed to. We had a small apartment with thin walls. I left early. I came home late. She'd already eaten. Sometimes she waited up, sometimes she didn't. I told myself that was normal, temporary, necessary. I said things like, "It's just for now." I said, "Once this project is done." I said, "Next year will be easier." Those phrases sound harmless. They sound responsible. They sound like a man providing. They are dangerous phrases. In my 30s, we had 2 children, a son first, then a daughter. I remember holding each of them in the hospital, feeling something open up in my chest that I didn't have language for. I remember thinking very clearly that I needed to work even harder now. That was my instinct, to respond to love by leaving the room. I missed small things at first. A school pickup here, a bedtime story there. Eleanor never made a big deal out of it. She filled in the gaps quietly. She was good at that. I told myself she understood. I never asked. Most evenings I came home tired. Not physically, but the kind of tired that makes you quiet and distant. The kind that tells you the couch is safer than conversation. The kids would be loud, then quieter, then gone to bed. Eleanor would ask how my day was. I would give her a summary, not a story. She would nod. We would sit in the same room doing different things. I thought that counted as being together. I was wrong. The damage didn't arrive all at once. There was no explosion, no dramatic argument that changed everything. It was erosion. Slow, polite, almost invisible. There were birthday parties I arrived late to, recitals I stood at the back of, family dinners where my mind was somewhere else, already planning tomorrow. I remember one night, my daughter was maybe 8, showing me a drawing she had made. I remember nodding without really looking. I remember saying, "That's nice, sweetheart," and turning back to my paperwork. I don't remember the drawing. That's the part that stays with me. As the years went on, the job got bigger, the title changed, the paycheck grew. People congratulated me. They said I was doing well. They said my family must be proud. I believed them. Eleanor started going to things without me. School meetings, neighborhood gatherings. She stopped asking if I could come. She'd just tell me afterward how it went. I thought she was being considerate. She was adjusting. There were moments looking back where she tried to slow me down. She'd suggest a weekend away, a day trip, dinner without the television on. I'd agree in theory, then cancel in practice. Just this once, I'd say. Things are busy right now. I didn't hear what she wasn't saying. By my 40s, the kids were teenagers. They didn't ask for me as much. They were polite, distant in the way teenagers often are, but there was something else there too. A kind of expectation that I wouldn't be fully available. That expectation was my doing. Eleanor and I argued more then. Not loudly. Quiet arguments. Tired arguments. About nothing on the surface. Dishes, schedules, tone. Underneath it was time. Time she wanted back. Time I insisted we didn't have. I remember one argument clearly. She said, "I feel like I'm living alongside you, not with you." I remember responding with a list of responsibilities, of sacrifices, of everything I was doing for us. She didn't interrupt me. She just listened. When I finished, she said, "I know." That was it. I won the argument. I lost something else. The turning point didn't come when I expected. It wasn't dramatic. It was ordinary. That's what makes it cruel. I was 56 when Eleanor got sick. Not suddenly. Just tired at first. Then pain she brushed off. Then appointments that stretched longer and got quieter. Cancer is a word that empties a room when it's spoken. I remember sitting there, nodding, asking practical questions. Treatment options, timelines, logistics. I was good at logistics. What I wasn't good at was sitting still. During her treatment, I tried to adjust. I left work earlier. I took calls from the parking lot instead of the office. I told myself I was being present, but my mind was still divided even then. One afternoon, she asked me to stay home from work, just one day. She said she didn't feel like being alone. I told her I couldn't. There was a meeting. I promised I'd be back early. She nodded. She always nodded. That was the last morning she walked me to the door. She died 6 months later. People tell you grief comes in waves. That's true, but it's not the part people think. The wave isn't sadness, it's memory. It's the sudden understanding of something you can no longer fix. At her funeral, people talked about how devoted I was, how hardworking, how strong. I stood there and accepted their words because correcting them felt impossible. After she was gone, the house felt wrong, too big, too quiet. I found myself reaching for my phone to call her, to tell her something small, then remembering. That's when it started to hurt in a different way. Not because she was gone, but because I could finally see how often I had been. The kids were grown by then. They lived their own lives. We talked. We saw each other on holidays. They loved me. I don't doubt that. But there was a distance I couldn't cross. I hadn't built the bridge when it mattered. Retirement came a few years later. People throw parties for that. They give speeches. They talk about freedom. I went home afterward and sat in my chair and realized I didn't know how to fill a day without obligations. Work had been my structure. Without it, there was nothing to distract me from the empty spaces. That's when the regret became steady, not sharp, just constant, like a low ache you carry everywhere. I replayed conversations in my head. I imagined different responses, different choices. I wondered what would have happened if I had stayed home that one day, or that 100 days. But time doesn't respond to imagination. There are things now that cannot be fixed. I can't go back and ask Eleanor what she needed, because she needed it then. I can't become the father my children deserved in moments that have already passed. I can only see clearly now because the noise has stopped. That's the cruel joke of it. Clarity arrives when usefulness feels behind you. I don't think success is evil. I don't regret working. I regret confusing effort with love. I regret believing that providing was the same as showing up. Love needed my time, not my explanations, not my intentions. My time. If you're listening to this and you're younger than I am, I don't have instructions for you. I don't know your life. I don't know your pressures. I only know what it feels like to sit in a quiet house and realize that the people you were working for needed something you kept postponing. Presence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It just waits. And if you don't choose it, it disappears without protest. I wish I had known that being needed at work feels good, but being known at home feels different, deeper, quieter, harder to replace. Now, my days are simple. I water the plants, I read the paper, I take walks slowly. Sometimes I talk to Eleanor out loud. Not because I think she can hear me, just because it feels right to finally speak without rushing. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do. But I know I'm done pretending there will be more later. If this meant something to you, I hope it stays with you in a quiet way. As for me, I'll finish my coffee, wash my cup, and sit here a little longer. That's enough now.